Welcome, mere mortals, to another musing session. We go over a little bit of our week to understand the lessons from our striving for excellence, see how we're going with that. We're going to talk a little bit about binary decision-making and also a little bit about volunteering, doing good better, and emotions. So we're going a little bit deep with this one. But as always, kick it off with a mere mortal moment. So mine is, over-rationality can be a trap in itself. Denying emotions is a step away from denying reality. So it's a couple of things related into that, talking about emotions and whatnot. But I think that'll take a little bit of a while to fully unpack. So I'll let you do your moment.
Okay, mine is, and I came this up very recently, but it's an interesting one. It's not if, but when. And if it's when, then what? Oh my God, is what it is. So it's a bit of a play. It's a bit of an interesting one of words, but what it does mean, and I'll get into it probably in a bit of musings with binary decisions and a couple of others, but the whole pretense of when you think about some things, especially on what things can happen, it's really not if, it's when on a lot of cases. And if it is when, then what? What are you going to do about it? And it comes short on, let's just talk a really simple example. If you say for a whole year, you say, I'm going to run every single day of the year, it's quite likely that it's going to rain one of those days. So it's not if, it's just when it's going to happen. And if that's going to happen, then what? What are you going to do? And if you go within a mindset of, oh, well, this is not going to happen, and the day it happens, then I've got news for you. You've never thought about it. You're probably going to feel stressed. You're going to struggle with it. But if you at the outset think about, okay, these are the possible reasons of what's going to happen. Sure, it might be sunny quite a lot of times. However, this might happen. Then what? Sort it out before it actually happens. Yeah. You'll be much more stress-free at the moment. So that's what I try to intend by that.
There you go. You just got me thinking, though. There's these guys in Sydney, Melbourne, not sure where, called the 4 a.m. Club podcast. I saw on Instagram, and their challenge they've set for themselves is to every week run an extra kilometer. So in week 1, they're running 1 kilometer, but by the end of the year, they're doing more than a marathon every single week. So they'll be doing
2Ks.
42Ks, 43Ks, 44Ks. So they're at, I think, around 13Ks at the moment. And one of the dudes is really quick, actually.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of their times. Yeah, pretty awesome.
That just got me thinking of that and like, if and when for them would be, okay, when my if is going to be, getting injured. But for me, I would be saying, nah, that's a when.
When it's going to happen. Okay, that's interesting. I want to talk about mine because I think yours will get a little bit deeper. So
let's go.
Mine was just binary decision making. I listened to it very recently. It came up in Jocko's podcast. It also came up in a couple of other places I was listening to. And it's almost recognizing when it's good to have binary decision making. So I'm not suggesting
yes, no.
That's a yes, no. It's a 1-0, yes, no. It doesn't come to all terms, but especially when it's physical fitness and maybe other areas on when you should be doing something, just to kick you in the ass to go, don't go meddling around in the gray area for some of these decisions. Make it a binary decision and then own it. So when it comes to working out, or if you want to go for a run, it's not about, let's say, take for instance for me, there was a day this week that went past where on the day there was a 4.5K run. That's what's going to happen. That was a binary decision. And it's a yes or a no. And I started going into that middle period of, I'll pull it. Oh, I'm going to do it in the morning now. I'll pull it back to midday. I'll do it at lunchtime. And lunchtime came around and it was humid. It was muggy. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll split it up into 2Ks. So I'll do, all these ways where my mind was, it kind of still is, but I'm doing it in a different way. It got done, right? It got finished. Not at the time that I wanted to, but it got finished. And when I look back at it, this is where you need that binary decision making. It's a yes or a no. Rather than trying to get yourself lost in the middle, little gooey area of maybes and possibilities in the gray area, trying to solidify it in your mind, it's a yes or no. You're either going to do it or you're not. And if you say yes, it almost, at least for me, it gets me in my mind to, okay, that decision's been made. You're going to go and do that. Or if it's a no, okay, it's a full no. Don't wally around saying, I'm going to maybe go and do this or not. I just don't think in that instance you get that much benefit from going ahead and doing it. I know what maybe some people are thinking. Well, it is better to do 1 kilometer rather than doing nothing. I get that. I get that. But I think more beneficially for me and maybe other people, it's a good approach to go, no, just go put it as binary. It's a yes or a no. And I think there's a lot of other places in life where you give yourself the option to have these maybes. So I don't know, you got to get up early at 7 a.m. and you got to go and do something else and get up for a couple of meetings, but you should go to the gym and you need to eat and do a couple of 3-4 different things. Don't let the decision of, I'll push it till later and maybe I can kind of reschedule this and I'll do it in the afternoon. You can do that. Sure, I get that. You can do that. But the ability to have some binary decisions to go, no, it's a yes or a no. I'm doing this or I'm not doing it. And if I've said yes, cool, it's going to happen. Go and make it. And you might end up having a better day because you'd already planned it out in that way. So it just made me think, okay, I've got to introduce a couple of these binary decision points in my life where I can go, nope, it's a yes or a no. And it's no, I'm owning it. I'm not doing that. And yes, I'm going to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I wholly endorse this sort of thinking like you mentioned, not everywhere, but in a lot of places, because for me, there's so many just benefits to it. But I think you need to be clear beforehand to be able to do it. So with your running, for example, you sort of, let yourself have that, or maybe I could split it up. Whereas it should be, beforehand, before you even start your task, it is making it clear to yourself, no, it's either I'm going to run 4Ks, 4.5Ks in one fell swoop and in one effort, or no. And you need that prep beforehand for mentally like adjusting to that, to be able to do that. I think I sort of see some parallels when I was doing my month of no sugar. And then I had that day where it was, going to someone's place, it's going to be a social interaction. It's going to be difficult to say no in that sort of situation. And I went into it thinking, maybe I can, maybe I can't.
Yeah.
And I ended up wasting a lot of mental energy on this thing where it should have either just been, okay, no, go into it and say no, doesn't matter how awkward it is, or go into it saying, yes, you know what, today I am going to break this and I am just going to, eat sugar on this day.
Yeah, and what it helps you out is, as you said, it takes away that mental stress or that inefficiency in life where make the decision and stick to it. And it's more, even not the decision, it's the intent. Like, be binary about your intent. So for me, it was my intent of maybe running 4.5Ks wasn't there. I was kind of dilly-dallying because I started to think, maybe I'll go doing 2. I'm not saying that it's like now a must. Like, you have to go and do 4.5Ks. I think more it's that mental state that you should be a yes on, okay, my intent is to go and do 4.5K and I'm going to go do that now. Now, if I don't accomplish it, if I fail at it, if whatever else happens, okay, that's all right. It's not that you have to do it as in like in 100% successful, but it's a binary decision of that's my intent. That's my decision.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead. It just removes so much inefficiencies in life where I think it just comes up in all manners across life.
Yeah. But I'll give an example of the other one where binary decision making didn't work for me. So this was eating to like calories or tracking calories and whatnot. And I would set myself, okay, I'm going to eat 2,800. And I found it extremely stressful trying to count up exactly to it. And, you're not going to be able to get to exact, but what's permissible is 28.
05, 2810,
is 2850 okay? That's only 50 over. 50 calories is, it's like 2 or 3 chips or something, it's nothing. So for that, I found I would try and eat to it and then I would go over and then I'd just go, no, screw it. I've stuffed up. Whatever, I'm going to eat whatever I want today.
Yep.
Whereas I found setting myself a plus minus 10%, that actually really worked well for me because then I could just go, you know what, today it's going to be hard to get like a little bit of food and whatnot. Okay, I'll eat to 90%. That's okay. 10% over, that's fine. That's good. So there are ways. There definitely are times when it's not useful as well.
Yep.
Coolly. All right. So I'll get into mine. So one is, I guess, volunteering. So I got my
volunteer kidney health. Very nice.
Volunteer shirt on. Kidney Health Australia. They're not supporting us, but you did give me a shirt. So you should have thought about that.
So in a way, you are supporting us.
Yeah, you should have thought about that before giving me a shirt. And I guess I'm supporting them as well. So it's a bit of give and take.
Yep.
But one of my goals this month was to do some volunteering, just anyway. It didn't particularly matter to me. And so I just typed in Queensland volunteering. And this is one of the ones that popped up. So I went and did some gift wrapping at a Carindale shopping centre. So did 3.5 hours. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. And then I'll do another 4 hours tomorrow.
Yep.
And this got onto me thinking about this book that I read, Doing Good Better by William McCaskill. And there's a book review out of it already. Yes. And it's talking about effective altruism and doing the most good in the world. And so this really banged on, like, for me, two opposing thoughts in my mind. So one was, I want to sort of better myself, and I actually enjoyed going out and doing something, and I didn't particularly get anything out from it. I was sort of thinking, maybe I'll wear the Mere Mortals shirt out so people can sort of, I can get like a bit of publicity or something while I'm doing it, or I can, use it to work on my people skills at the same time and all these things. And, none of that really eventuated. When you're wrapping gifts, it's way too hard to have a conversation. So the time went really quick because I was just wrapping gifts the whole time. And it was, I enjoyed sort of the mindless monotony of tasks with that. That's fun. And, I didn't try and make friends or anything with anyone. I was like, all right, see you guys. Nice to meet you all.
Yep.
You're cool people. So, but if I look at it, as my time there, how much value did I actually bring to the world by doing that? Well, me being there potentially brought in an extra $25, $30, $40 maybe for 3.5 hours worth of my work. Now, if I was back at my old job and I'd done this, that's an easy calculation. Not worth my time. I should just work 3 hours at work and then give that money directly to the charity. But at the moment, well, I'm earning zero, so I can sort of justify it in that way. So it's an interesting one about getting into, like, how do you do the best in the world? And, I would argue that it was, in one way I can argue volunteering like that is sort of pointless because you're not doing much unless you're already in a position where it's very hard for you to give back in other ways. But, I also went out and did some volunteering and did some stuff, which, I normally haven't done in the past. So sort of like trying to find that balance between, doing the best in the world, I guess. And the other problem with this book, which I mentioned, was it's really overly rational. So it's almost like he doesn't take into account that you're going to have the feelings of, you do feel better actually going out and doing something rather than paying money anonymously to a charity, which you're, most likely is going to have good in the world, but maybe it won't. And, that was a problem I had with the book, which was, you do need to sort of be in touch with your emotions and say, hey, even though this might not be the most economically, statistically best way of doing it,
rational thing,
the most rational, emotionally, that plays a role as well. So I was wondering, have you ever had times in your life where you think maybe you were over-rational and it didn't help the situation? So this could be like, with partners, it could be with work, it could be, whatever, where you're applying too much rationality to it.
Yeah. I mean, the clear example, and this happens broadly, whether it's with a partner, whether it's in a work aspect or in different areas, is when you over-rationalize the aspect of being correct in a situation when you're having a discussion. So, let's say you're an example at work, you might be having a conversation with someone and you become overly dependent on the fact that what you're sharing with them, they're not getting it and you're correct. And rationally, everyone should be in the right mindset, or maybe doing it in this particular way for it to be the most efficient as possible. Now, if they come up with a way that's maybe 90% as efficient or 80%, or if you're talking with your partner and they've got a different view and they want to, maybe drive this way, which is 10 kilometers longer, which they believe, you can get to these points where you can be over the top and go like, no, well, this is what it is. Like, this is the most efficient way. This is going to happen. And it could ultimately be that, you might be right. You win this argument, but you've lost the war.
Yeah.
You've lost maybe then the aspects of your emotional connection, your ability to influence someone, all because you fought over maybe something that, you've won this extra little bit of efficiency or this particular conversation, but you lost whatever comes after it. And so obviously this is not about then giving time and volunteering, but Similarly, in the space of volunteering, so I'm thinking about it now, you can over-rationalize the fact that, yes, I went in and supported, wrapping papers and it gave $30, $40, $50. And I think you can, if you start rationalizing it that way, then you go, okay, well, why don't you, just give money, go and work like the most vile job that gives you the most amount of money and then give that money away. That could be the most rational thing if you're looking at the giving option.
Yeah.
And it makes me think, okay, but you've got to think about, there's much more aspects of the emotion that brings it, also your connection to moving away from being an individual to sort of the group benefit that you provide, and maybe how much better you become from it as well, and how that can stem forward to other people. So I think there's a rational aspect of money, like the quantifiable money that you might be helping out with, but maybe there's some other untangible things that you just don't know about that you might be providing, like if you go in and you volunteer for those hours and you're really energetic and you provide sort of joy to a lot of people, okay, maybe you've provided in this volunteering aspect some joy and happiness to a lot of other people that was not even what you were intended to do, but by proxy came about, and that's helped out other people. So you can't be too certain of some of the intangibles that might come up as well.
Yeah, and that's why this book is kind of hard as well, because it is, there are intangible things that can't be measured, but which would have a big impact. They took a photo of us, for example. Now imagine if it was just, me and 4 other supermodel stunning girls there. Yes, that photo is probably going to have like a way bigger impact, potentially go viral in essence, because it's like, holy shit, like this charity, whatever it's doing, they got attractive women, and it's wow, let's give more money to them.
Yep.
So, maybe that would be a better investment of like a really attractive girl's time.
That's true.
Versus, her being really smart, getting a law degree, and, giving charity-wise X amount of dollars per year instead of, going and doing that. So
one of the things that always comes to mind with volunteering is, where you've heard maybe people say that, if you already say give money away if you're charitable, you will only just increase that with the more money you earn. And if you're already not being charitable now, then people take it as like, oh, well, so, if you grow and you start making like lots of money, you're probably not going to be charitable anyways, because you're already not a charitable person. I kind of disagree with that. And in the sense that I look at, and obviously this is looking service level, so who knows realistically what someone like a Bill Gates was, or a couple of other people. But from what I've read, someone like a Bill Gates, they were very, very much in the sense of, I'm building a huge company. I'm going to invest as much as possible, crush the competition to become the best, Microsoft. And then he made all this money. And then he came up to a point, and then he started giving back in a humongous way. Now, when you look at it at like the entire period of life of Bill Gates, you go, man, this guy's given back a lot of money. He supported a lot of things and a humongous amount of charity work. But if you looked at it just the beginning of his life, perhaps maybe the first 30 years, I hazard a guess that he didn't give much away at all. And he was really dialed in on just, bettering himself, bettering the company that he was leading. So if you looked at it just that context, maybe people would go, oh, well, he's not very charitable. He doesn't volunteer, doesn't help out the world. Then you look at the broad context, oh, wow, he's doing so much. Then I think about, okay, if you want to volunteer, like let's say in this case, you go and decide to do gift wrapping or that type of volunteering for the rest of your life, let's imagine. Sure, that provides back some value, but I struggle when people say, oh, yeah, that's better than if you just tucked away and did 40 years, spent it on yourself, became really, really wealthy, took care of everyone you know and your personal loved ones, etc., and then you started giving back. Some people will see it as like, oh, no, that first one that I explained to you, that's a better way to give. And I go, no, I don't think it is. I think you got to look at it in the broad context of what you're trying to do.
Yeah. I mean, almost immediately, I want to push back and say, but that person's actually doing it. And so there is a very big difference between someone saying, oh, I'm going to give back in the future versus someone who's even doing like a little modicum in the moment. Because hell, I see this in myself. This is probably one of the first times I've done something really unselfishly. And it will, I guess in the past, I would have sort of had that same mentality. I can do that in the future sort of thing. And so, yeah, well, I mean, someone saying, oh, this is better than that, who cares what they say? But I do think there is a momentum that can be created by even doing very small charitable acts or giving very small amounts, which then is sort of indicative of like, okay, yeah, that person might do it in the future.
Yeah.
So if I had met Bill Gates at 35 or 30 and he hadn't given anything back, I would have, very seriously questioned, what's the probability that he actually will turn to be out, when he is a billionaire, give back billions.
Yeah.
I probably would have put that percentage really, really low.
That's true. It could be low. Now, why people are charitable at the really high net worth is also something else to be discussed, right?
Yeah.
There's reasons behind that. So it's not, is it entirely 100% altruistic? Maybe not.
Well,
so
nothing
you've
really
got
is,
to take
to
that.
be honest.
But one of the things I was also thinking about when you were talking about, okay, those spent hours, would it be better if I went and did, you worked for those hours, gave away that money? I think, again, so you can look at it rationally. Yes, obviously, if you're looking at purely the absolute, the money, exactly what you can help. But one of the big things why I would enjoy doing more charitable things or doing volunteering, I think people who have experienced it is when you go and do something like that, you kind of step back away from the ego, if you want to look at it one way, or just yourself as an individual, and you start looking at it more broadly. Like you're doing this for other people, for someone else, and you're kind of helping out broader community, perhaps people who are in a worse state than you are. And what you personally can take away from that is then a bit of a different mindset and understanding on, oh, wow, maybe I didn't see this way. I've learned quite a few things. And it's maybe that takeaway and the mindset that you go that sure, in the moment, the value that you've provided back for those 3-4 hours might not be as good if you just work and gave the money. But because you've become a bit more personally connected, you've changed particularly maybe your mindset or the way that your ego looks at, how much I should give for myself or to others, that might help you change and evolve to start being much more of a giving person. And so those 3-4 hours might be the difference between maybe in a year's time, you're supporting a particular charity more than, sure, you could just still be working 3 to 4 hours to give that money away and not be as connected to it. And so not support it as much in the long distance as well. So yeah, I think that misses that more emotional connection that you can have, which then helps you to go and provide more support or become more attached to it.
Yeah. The problem is when you're talking about these things and you start getting really rational is, you can get overly rational. So he was giving in the book examples of sort of counterfactuals and also what would have happened if you hadn't done this. So he was talking about how one guy basically invented the Über-rationalisation, the nitrogen method of extracting nitrogen. He basically fed 1 billion people who, let's say, then you can do the counterfactual. Would those 1 billion people actually have lived if he hadn't invented this method? So, you're saying, wow, this guy fed 1 billion people. Well, maybe not. So, or he saved 1 billion people from starvation. Well, you can't really say that.
Yep.
So he does things like that. And he was saying like, maybe this guy's best use of time actually wouldn't have been doing this because another person would have invented that same method. And so he could have been doing something else. And right. You can get down that. Yeah. The problem with this book is it gets overly rational, but the good thing about it is super rational. So it squashes a bunch of arguments that I personally had, which were as far as like the effectiveness of charities and whatnot. So
what did it end up being the most effective charity that it mentioned?
So like there's a couple that it mentioned, and I've looked on the website afterwards to see if it was still held up because this book was published in 2017, I believe.
Okay. Yep.
Let me just quickly check. 2015.
2015.
So it was published in 2015. So still at the top was the Against Malaria Foundation, which was saying providing bed nets for children in Africa.
Yep.
So essentially just we'll give you a bed net and you put it on like this, and statistically it would
save the most amount of human
lives, because it would basically like for every $3,000 spent you would statistically save one child from getting malaria.
Okay.
And another one was a deworming program, which was like I said, giving very cheap medicines that the Western world has had for ages to usually sub-Saharan Africa. Another one was a sort of like directly donating sort of thing. So you would, for every dollar that you gave, 88 cents would get into the hands of someone.
Right.
And they would be able to, use that as they best see fit.
Okay.
So maybe it would be, creating a new road into their village. Maybe it would be whatever it was. They would
Have the choice of
They're
that.
on the ground. They have the
Yeah,
best idea of how to use this money.
Yep.
And you just obviously some of that would be used for alcohol and stuff like that. But on the whole, giving in that way does seem to help.
Give them the choice as well.
Yeah. So those were the
Okay.
main ones. I think there was a couple of ones that he didn't mention in the book, but that had appeared that were. There was quite a few to do with malaria. So there was different malaria strands, different deworming strands, and it was funny, just like how many things aren't that useful actually. So, companies that do shoe, like every pair of shoes you buy will give a pair of shoes to someone in Africa.
someone.
Those sort of methods, like they don't actually turn out that great because you just, destroying the shoemaker in that village's
Yeah, right, okay.
his economy. You're creating all these other like shipping and transportation and logistics, and
Yep.
all the money sort of just disperses out and doesn't get used effectively. So that was what this book
good for.
Good for, but also then, just the arguments he used in it can so very easily just be switched around to be used against it as well.
Yeah, okay.
And
You
so-
can over-rationalize it and then be
Yeah.
like, oh, well, what happens if this happens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last one I wanted to touch upon was, I suppose, getting in touch with your emotions, how you particularly do it, and me. So my body and subconscious, I feel, are sometimes way ahead of the logical brain, my logical brain, and it can take me like weeks, months to really decipher how I was feeling in that moment and why certain things turned out the way they did. So usually for this has been, I guess, like health problems in the family or relationship breakups and whatnot. And logically, I usually think I'm fine. Like I can compartmentalize this. This thing happened, but my life goes on and it's not that big of a deal.
Yep.
But then I look back 6 months later and go, oh, well, that actually did affect a lot of the decisions, even when I thought I was being super logical and rational. So do you have a way of getting in touch with those? How and have you noticed the same thing for yourself? Because this is definitely I'm not sure I'd call it a problem for me, but it's just something I'm starting to notice about myself.
Well, I mean, I'm going to just probably have to blanket say that I think every mere mortal will have to experience that because emotions control your decisions. And unless you're already mastered your emotions, I would say there's a lot of people who you think you're being really logical and rational at the time of the inflection point, whatever may be happening. You go, I should be doing this. This is why I should feel, whether you're angry, whether you're sad, and then you reflect on it later and go, oh man, I was in that state.
Yeah. So I guess what I would say is this: it's a lot more like an underlying one. So I don't think if you could look at my physiological symptoms in a particular time, or potentially captures of my face or whatnot, and which gives indications of what mood I'm in.
Yep.
I would have said they were at a relative baseline, but there was more like a deep-seated underlying emotion or underlying cause that was taking time for me to get over. So really right now I'm talking about like a breakup, for example. And yeah, for a long time I would say, yeah, I'm fine. Like I could go out and do these things. If I met another perfect girl at this moment, that wouldn't having that previous relationship wouldn't hinder me. But then looking back, I would say, yeah, you know what, that there was something going on there over like a long stretch.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I'll say, one, I think everyone's afflicted by it. Like, I don't think there's anyone who ever lives who doesn't get afflicted by it.
Yeah.
Unless you do, then you're very special and well done. But how I would suggest, and I've been trying to do it myself to try to baseline myself, I guess, is, and I think I've mentioned this before, is try to have it written down or have my whys or everything that I'm trying to do somewhere else. Somewhere written about when I've actually taken the time to do that while I was rational, in a rational thought. So if it might be, let's just take, for instance, something to do with fitness, and I've written down that, I want to be doing fitness for these reasons. These are the core reasons, tenets, why I'm doing it. And I notice myself start to, I don't know, stop going to the gym altogether and just start running. And in the moment, I might think, yes, this is why I'm doing it. And I find myself like losing weight and losing muscle. And maybe at the time, I think like, oh yeah, this is what I do. I might reflect on my why and go, ooh, okay, this is a little bit different. Why have I shifted so dramatically? And that might be able to help me realize, oh, okay, hold on. Maybe there's an underlying thought here that's making me feel this way. So maybe in that relationship one as well. So something a bit different. Maybe I have always wanted to, say, do an MBA program, or who knows, work in a particular field. And so you go through a really bad breakup, you go through the stage of grieving and everything else. But for a few weeks later, you go, actually, I'm not going to do this at all. I'm going to go in, travel the world, and I'm going to sell everything. I'm going to become, a hippie, and I'm going to live on top of the mountains and become, a monk.
Yeah.
Now, all of this might be true, but I might want to reflect back on a time when I've been rational and go, okay, is it truly that I'm changing completely my mind on the whys, and just go and reflect, okay, maybe there's an underlying reason I'm trying to do this. It might be, dang, maybe I'm trying to escape from these things and I'm not trying to face up to it for whatever the purpose may be. So that's my only way to tackle it at this stage. I just think, and I struggle with that too, when in the moment when maybe it's either an underlying emotion. It doesn't have to be like an overwhelming amygdala response. It's just like that in the background, you're annoyed, or in the background you're like, you just feel frustrated for something that happened maybe a couple of days ago. That might still be sitting there. And I'm not terribly good at meditation to totally knock it out of the way. I think it's just reflecting back and going, ooh, okay, I'm starting to be a little bit different. Let's look elsewhere where I've been rational at a point, and try to compare and go, okay, well, why am I acting in this different way?
Yeah, that's some good points there. Yeah, I'm the same, man. I think people would probably realize by now if they're listening, like I don't get very high altered states. Like I'm not going to be the type of person who punches a hole in the wall like that.
Yep.
That just is not going to happen. I could if I wanted that. I'm bloody strong. These muscles. But yeah, that I have the same thing. Like maybe that little niggling thing, that little thing that's sort of like subconscious, so I can't really tell, but it is affecting decisions, and not that that's like a really bad thing either, but it's I'd like to know, like you mentioned, the why. Why am I doing this in this particular way? So
one cool thing that I wish it could do, and I mean it's more that physiological changes in your body. So maybe with sleep trackers, temperature trackers, or your stress, or your VO2 max, whatever it may be. I wish it would be, I don't know, maybe there is some out there, but I don't know how precise they would be. But for you to go, my temperature's, a little bit higher than normal, and I'm sleeping, maybe I'm not getting enough theta sleep or deep sleep to the right amount that I would usually do, and I'm not changing anything else. Okay, why might that be? And maybe there's something going on that's stressing you out, or preventing you from doing that, or something slightly changing. I'm sure there is, but I just haven't looked into it too properly.
I think I remember watching a podcast on the Lex Fridman where he was talking about a lady who was talking about emotions and AI, and I guess being able to like blend between the two, and using the deep learning programs to alter how you feel, and then use that data in particular ways. And she was talking about how they could grab like a sort of snapshot from your face, or video of your face and whatnot, or just a video, and then through the physiological things, because they can tell your heartbeat through the video, which is like insane. Like when I heard that, I just went, whoa, one of those like what the fuck moments. So they can sort of like use your facial emotions, like the tiny little details that we have no idea about, subconscious for us, but the machines can actually pick up. And she was saying, they have like a good prediction of, you take a video of this person on this day, they'll be able to tell you with, a better than chance accuracy what their mood will be like, let's say on the next day, which I just went, whoa, that's pretty cool. That's okay. So, some things like that, if there was an app or something, you could just whip out and it's saying like, you're at
there's a 70% chance that you're angry.
X% mood now. Maybe do that a couple of times so it baselines and whatnot. That would definitely be a useful thing. So, you're going in to buy a car. What sort of mood am I in? I'm in a really happy,
I'm in a buying mood,
really optimistic, really, sad mood. That's useful information for you to know, so that, when you go in, you can go, oh.
That makes me feel the opposite. So imagine the car salesman whips out like the camera, checks the phone, like, this person is optimistic. Here we go, gonna get him. He's gonna buy a car today.
Exactly.
Very good. Okay.
That's it. So if you want to learn how to do good better, I'll tell you how to do it. You just listen to Mere Mortals. You're going to become a good person.
There you go. You're volunteering for your soul. You're volunteering yourself to take in some great information to listen in.
Look, I'm not going to say, if you're working on malaria, solving malaria, coming up with a drug that completely eliminates it. Yeah, I guess like maybe you can spend 50% of your time on that, but the other 50% should be
it's
on,
to be listening.
on
Yes, right. Yeah, it's watching on video on YouTube and then on the audio as well.
Just to make sure.
Just to double make sure that you're getting all the information. Anyways, that's been Musings for the Mere Mortals here.
Yeah.
One out.
Current out. Wah.